Did you hear about Jariah Edwards? She was only 17 years old and weeks away from giving birth to a baby girl. Her ex-boyfriend shows up with flowers and then shoots her in the back of the head.
A heartbreaking tragedy has left a family shattered in San Diego, California. 17-year-old Jariah Edwards, who was 8 months pregnant, was shot and killed outside a vacation rental home early Saturday morning.
I'm not going to be on the gang for years. I just killed my baby mama, bro. The police looking for me right now.
She's genuinely like one of the sweetest people. She's just recently started kind of growing into herself and becoming, who she was supposed to be. We just came to get away, to just enjoy each other.
But it was that was just like the most heartbreaking thing to ever hear. Yeah, it's just sad. Like, she didn't deserve this, and I don't know. Nobody should experience this at such a young age.
On a doorbell camera in San Diego's Bay Park neighborhood, there is a recording from just after 1 a.m. on May 30th, 2026. It shows a young woman stepping outside a vacation rental. She is 8 months pregnant. In her hands, she holds a vase of flowers. She looks around, confused, probably wondering who sent them. She takes a few steps away from the door, and then a man emerges from the shadows. He raises a handgun. He fires once. The bullet enters the back of her head. She never saw him coming. That is the last image of 17-year-old Jariah Edwards alive. Welcome to True Crime Unraveled on YouTube and True Crime Unraveled TV on Facebook and Instagram. We read every single comment you leave, every theory, every question, every time you share your own story. Keep them coming. You are the reason this channel keeps digging. Jariah Edwards was 17 years old. She lived in Phoenix, Arizona. And by every account from everyone who knew her, she was the kind of person who made a room feel warmer just by being in it. Her friends, Amara, Jamila, and Samaya Corley, described her as having a natural nurturing energy. She was sarcastic in the best way. She laughed easily. And in the spring of 2026, she was weeks away from becoming a mother to a baby girl. That was her dream. Not a backup plan, not an accident. Her dream. She was ready to finally meet her daughter, to see what she looked like, to hold her. She had picked out names in her head. She had imagined a future. But there was something else happening beneath the surface. Something her friends could see but couldn't stop. Jariah had been dating a 21-year-old man named Trevon Williams since September of 2025. On paper, that age gap might not raise every eyebrow. But inside the relationship, something was deeply wrong. Her friends watched her change. She became quiet. Her energy shifted. When they went out, she had to stay on the phone with him. She wasn't the same person. And they used a word to describe him that lands hard. Monster. Not because they were being dramatic. Because they saw what he did to her spirit.
Friends of 17-year-old Jariah Edwards are still in denial.
Honestly, like, when I first found out, that was just like the most heartbreaking thing to ever hear. Yeah, it's just sad. Like, she didn't deserve this, and I don't know. Nobody should experience this at such a young age.
The Corley sisters have known Jariah for several years, but it feels like a lifetime.
It was funny. Like, we always laughed about. Yeah, her personality was very sarcastic.
Jariah was killed this weekend, police saying the Valley teen was visiting San Diego with her family. According to San Diego police, her 21-year-old boyfriend drove from Phoenix to San Diego, where he met her and allegedly shot her.
He was literally a monster, and he ran into somebody with a pure soul. Like, there's nothing she could have did that made him act like this.
Jariah was pregnant, police saying she was about 32 weeks. That baby is still in the hospital.
Because that's the last part we have of her. Yeah, while he still gets to be alive in jail.
Domestic violence and teen dating violence experts say there is help out there. If you or you suspect a loved one is going through abuse, reach out to the National Domestic Violence or Teen Dating Abuse hotlines.
It's like the most heartbreaking part about it. It's entirely preventable. Every single instance of domestic violence is preventable.
Friends say Jariah was trying to leave her boyfriend, and now they're remembering the girl who always wanted to be a mom.
This is like the last person on earth that you would expect this to happen to.
And here's where the record needs to be clear. This wasn't just suspicion or teenage drama. There is a paper trail. In September of 2024, months before Jariah was killed, police in Arizona responded to a hospital where a 17-year-old victim, identified as Williams' girlfriend, had been treated for stab wounds, cuts, and bruises. That victim told investigators that Williams had threatened her. His words were captured in an affidavit. "If I have to kick down the door, you're not going to make it home." He allegedly stabbed through a bedroom door with a kitchen knife, forced his way inside, and beat her with a dog collar. All of this happened while an order of protection was already in place. Let that land for a second. A judge had already told this man to stay away, and he responded with a knife through a door. Now ask yourself, why would Jariah have stayed with someone with that history? But that's the wrong question. The better question, the one investigators ask, is why leaving is the most dangerous time in any abusive relationship. And Jariah was trying to leave. By late May of 2026, she had blocked Williams' number. Her family was in the process of getting a restraining order. She had traveled to San Diego with her family for a vacation, a break, a breath of fresh air. They were staying at a short-term rental on Gardena Avenue in the Bay Park neighborhood. It should have been a safe week. A pregnant teenager laughing with her family by the California coast. But Trevon Williams wasn't done.
Police say a shooting happened at this house on Gardena Avenue just after 1 a.m. Neighbors say it is rented out as a short-term rental. Here, police say they found a 17-year-old pregnant woman shot in the head by her 21-year-old boyfriend.
It's tragic.
Paramedics raised the teenage mom to a hospital. Police say she had an emergency C-section at 32 weeks of pregnancy. The child survived, but is in critical condition. Sadly, they were unable to save the mother. After the shooting, which happened just down the street, police say the suspect fled on foot to a nearby canyon, and almost 2 hours went by before he was found and arrested, and a handgun was found nearby. Police say the family is visiting from Arizona, and the victim's boyfriend, Trevon Williams, came to San Diego separately and met them outside the home where he shot her. Police says he's in jail facing a murder charge. Neighbor Danielle Scalco says in times like these, it's important to stay connected and have open conversations.
Because so many other people are involved in you've got young kids now. Their whole life has changed in a second.
And here's where the evidence builds a timeline so precise it almost feels like a movie script, except this one ends with a body bag and a baby fighting for air in an NICU. On May 29th, 2026, Williams did something that shows premeditation in the clearest possible terms. He did not drive himself. He ordered a rideshare from Phoenix to San Diego. That's a 6-hour drive across the desert, through Yuma, past the border checkpoint, all the way to the coast. He left around 6 p.m. GPS data later obtained by investigators would track that vehicle the entire way. And here's the forensic reality of GPS tracking. When a suspect carries a cell phone, they carry a silent witness that never blinks, never forgets, and never lies. Every mile, every turn, every pause, it's all recorded. Williams arrived near the vacation rental just before 11:30 p.m. But he didn't go to the door. He didn't knock. He didn't make a scene. He hid. Prosecutors would later use a specific legal term for what he did: lying in wait. That's not just an expression. In California law, lying in wait means the suspect concealed their purpose, waited for a vulnerable moment, and then struck without warning. It elevates a murder charge to special circumstances. It can mean life without parole or even the death penalty. So what did Williams do while he waited? He used technology as a weapon. He opened the DoorDash app. He ordered flowers sent to the vacation rental. A delivery driver dropped them off. Jariah came outside with a family member, because why wouldn't she? Flowers at the door. Maybe a secret admirer. Maybe a friend. Maybe just a nice surprise. She picked them up and went back inside. William stayed hidden. Then he sent a second order. A vase this time. A vase. Think about the psychology of that. He needed her to come out alone. The first delivery brought her out with someone else. So he tried again, hoping she'd be the one to grab it. And this time it worked. Just after 1 a.m., Jariah Edwards stepped outside alone. She picked up the vase. She looked around. And from the side, from the darkness where he had been waiting, Trevon Williams emerged. He shot her in the head. One shot. Precise. Fatal.
Did you hear about Jariah Edwards? She was only 17 years old and weeks away from giving birth to a baby girl. Her ex-boyfriend shows up with flowers and then shoots her in the back of the head. On May 30th, just last weekend, she was at a vacation home in San Diego with her family. Now, mind you, she was 17 and pregnant, about to give birth, and her ex-boyfriend is 21. This little sucker's name was Trevon Williams. He shows up at this rental house with flowers and somehow convinces her to come outside. But instead of apologizing, he shot her in the head. Her family had to rush her to the hospital where they performed an emergency C-section so they could save the baby.
Early Saturday morning, May 30th, 2026, her newborn daughter was said to have survived but remains in critical condition, transporting her to a nearby hospital due to the severity of her injuries and advanced pregnancy. Approximately 32 weeks, doctors performed an emergency C-section, and then Jariah was later pronounced dead.
A newborn baby girl now has to live without her mother.
Ballistics will later confirm the weapon, a handgun with an extended magazine, later identified by prosecutors as a machine gun, meaning it was modified to fire automatically. That's a separate federal crime. But let's stay with the moment. A single gunshot at 1 a.m. in a quiet San Diego neighborhood. Neighbors heard it. Some slept through it. But enough calls came in to 911 that police were dispatched immediately. Here's where the suspect's own words become evidence. And not just any evidence. A recording. After the shooting, Williams fled on foot into Tecolote Canyon, a nearby ravine with dense brush and walking trails. He changed clothes. He tried to hide. But before he was arrested, he made a phone call to a friend. And on that call, he said something that investigators would later play in court. I shot her in the face. I shot her dead. Those are his words. Not a confession coerced in an interrogation room. Not a statement made after hours of pressure. Just a man on a phone telling someone what he did.
I'm not gonna be on the game for years. I just killed my baby mama for police looking for me right now.
That recording is now a key piece of evidence. Audio forensics can authenticate voices, timestamps, and even background noise. In this case, the voice is unmistakably his. But here's the part of this story that makes it impossible to look away. Jariah was 32 weeks pregnant. That's 8 months. Her baby girl was developed enough to survive outside the womb, but just barely. When paramedics arrived, they found Jariah unconscious, bleeding from the head. They rushed her to the hospital. Doctors performed an emergency cesarean section. They delivered the baby, a little girl, and then Jariah Edwards was pronounced dead. The baby survived, but the word survived does heavy lifting here. She is in critical condition. Prosecutors have stated publicly that the infant suffered oxygen deprivation and currently has minimal brain activity. Doctors are doing everything they can, but her family is facing the possibility of losing both Jariah and her daughter. Let that sit for a second. A newborn girl fighting for her life in an NICU, whose father is the man who shot her mother in the head. Police found Williams hiding in a nearby neighborhood hours later. He was still carrying the handgun. He was arrested without further incident. And here's where the legal process kicked in fast. He was charged with first-degree murder with a special circumstance of lying in wait, attempted murder of a fetus, and possession of a machine gun with an extended magazine. The DA's office made it clear, this is a capital case. That means Williams could face the death penalty if convicted. At his arraignment, he pleaded not guilty. A judge ordered him held without bond. His face was not shown in court, but his actions were laid bare. Now let's talk about what Williams said versus what the evidence proved. We don't have a full police interrogation transcript yet, but we have his own recorded confession, and we have the GPS data putting him at the scene, and we have the DoorDash records showing he ordered the deliveries, and we have the gun, and we have the vase, and we have the bullet that entered the back of a pregnant teenager's head. He can say whatever he wants in court. Self-defense? She was unarmed. Accident? He waited in the dark for hours. Mistaken identity? He sent the flowers. The evidence doesn't argue. It just sits there, quietly, undeniably.
The man accused of killing his pregnant ex-girlfriend over the weekend faced a judge for the first time today.
Prosecutors say the killing was planned and carried out after he traveled from Arizona here to San Diego. News 8's Alex Cheney was in court today and joins us live now with the latest. Alex?
Yeah, Marcella, this is just so tragic. The family of the victim was in the courtroom today in tears as they watched the suspect, 21-year-old Trevon Williams, plead not guilty to first-degree murder and also attempting to kill his own unborn child.
This is a capital case.
In the Central Courthouse downtown, 21-year-old Trevon Williams pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder, the attempted murder of a fetus, and possession of a machine gun with an extended magazine. The judge ordered us not to show you his face. Prosecutors say Williams and 17-year-old Jariah Edwards started dating in September of 2025, and family was concerned.
Had an on and off relationship filled with domestic violence and threats of violence on the victim and her unborn baby by the defendant.
Prosecutors say that on May 29th, Edwards and her family were staying at an Airbnb in San Diego. By then, she had blocked Williams' phone number, and family was in the process of getting a restraining order. Court documents show Williams took a Lyft from Arizona to San Diego, leaving around 6 p.m. and arriving just before 11:30 that night. Prosecutors say he learned where Edwards was staying, had the driver drop him off several houses away, and lied in wait. They say he used DoorDash to send flowers to the home. Edwards went outside with a family member to pick them up, but Williams remained hidden. A short time later, prosecutors say he sent a second DoorDash delivery, this time a vase, to lure Edwards outside alone. That's when investigators say Williams shot her in the head early Saturday morning. After the shooting, prosecutors say he ran into Tecolote Canyon, changed clothes, and tried to hide. Prosecutors say they also have GPS data placing him at the scene, along with a recorded statement. The DA says Williams told a friend on the phone, "I shot her in the face. I shot her dead."
Evidence that are given in the police reports, given through GPS monitoring, as well as defendants' very own statements and witnesses.
Edwards was 32 weeks pregnant. Her baby was delivered by emergency C-section and remains in critical condition. Prosecutors say the child suffered a loss of oxygen and currently has minimal brain activity. If the baby dies, Williams could face an additional murder charge.
2 times.
Williams is currently being held with no bail. He is due back in court on Friday for a bail review hearing. His maximum penalty is life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty.
Jariah's friends have spoken to reporters with a rawness that cuts through all the legal talk. Samaya Corley said he literally drained the happiness from her. Amara Corley said she was just ready to finally meet her and see what she looks like. And Jamila Corley said something that should be written in every domestic violence training manual. We didn't get enough time with her. No justice, no amount of years will make up for him taking her life away. There is a GoFundMe set up by family and friends to help with medical expenses for the baby and to lay Jariah to rest. Her aunt told reporters that Jariah's legacy is her daughter, that the baby will be everything Jariah wanted to be and more. But here's the question this case forces us to ask, and we're going to ask it the way investigators think. How many red flags does a system need before it can stop a murder? There was a prior domestic violence incident involving Williams with a different victim. There was an order of protection. There were friends who saw Jariah changing, shrinking, becoming someone else. And yet he was still able to take a rideshare across state lines, order flowers to a door, and wait in the dark with a gun. What intervention could have stopped him? What piece of the puzzle was missing? This is the third pregnant teenager from Arizona shot in a 3-week period, according to news reports. And a 2025 national study from the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine found that homicide and suicide are now the #1 cause of maternal deaths in the United States. Not medical complications, not car accidents, homicide. Let that land. Jariah Edwards was excited to become a mom. She had dreams. She had friends who loved her. She had a whole life ahead of her. And on May 30th, 2026, Trevon Williams decided that none of that mattered. If you were on the jury, would this evidence convince you beyond reasonable doubt? Drop your verdict in the comments. Here's our question for you. Do you think Williams's recorded confession, "I shot her in the face," should carry more weight than the physical evidence like GPS and ballistics? Or is it the combination that makes this case so strong? Tell us what you think. Like, share, and subscribe. And remember, we read every comment. This has been True Crime Unraveled.